So in this episode, we're going to be looking at some later stages in the game and seeing how it changes the way you have to play as position 4. You're still going to be initiating, you're still going to be the team fight in some games, you're still going to be counter-initiating, but it changes because of the items that the other team gets, the items that you have yourself, and maybe even your team needs some different things from you. Maybe you need to save them as well with a force staff or a glimmer cape. So how you play your hero might change, but you still have the same role. So in this example, we're playing against Secret, and this is one of the latest team fights you can get in Dota right now in the patches. Some games will go later to 60 minutes, but at this time, we're basically reaching late game. At this point, I have Blink, I have Force Staff, so I already have like more responsibility than I had earlier in the game. I don't only have to Blink and initiate, I also have to save my team with Force Staff. So this is one thing that has changed from earlier in the game to late game. You have this responsibility. So here I saved our turret with my Force Staff, and this fight is kind of slow and slobby. You can see how we have Storm as well in this game. So we have two heroes that can kind of initiate, and you can look in this fight and see both me and Abed what our priority is. So Secret have both Lion and Wyvern, which are very traditional backline supports, and they provide a lot in team fights. If we don't kill these heroes, we're not going to win the team fight. Wyvern is going to save them with his Cold Embrace and Glimmer, and Lion is going to stun us like 3 times in a fight. So both me and Abed have like our eyes on these two supports in the backline. You can see it here as well. What happens next is that I kind of botch my Blink a little bit. I Blink here in the corner. I don't get the perfect jump on them, but what happens is I get the stun on the Lion, I get the stun on the front lining, I think it's Lesh, and then Abed comes in and follows up on my initiation. So he gets the Wyvern and the Lion, and we end up killing the 2 most important heroes first, basically. This is why this fight is good for us. We don't really go for the clock. You know, this guy is very tanky, hard to kill, and the Lesh in front ends up dying because we end up going on the Wyvern, so he couldn't heal him. So in this fight, we start off by having a ward on them, which means we see the Winter Wyvern. That's already good information for me because him and Lion are my main targets. As you can see here, as soon as Lion jumps on Storm, Storm is going to die. So it's really important that when you play position 4, especially if you're playing a Blink hero, that you keep an eye on these backliners, because those are the only heroes that you can really, those are the only heroes you actually have damage to kill, and that you can help your team provide. Like the toss will throw them back into your team, makes it so that they're not actually backliners anymore. They have to get in the fight. So that's what happens here. I end up finding the Wyvern and toss him onto the clock, so they stack up together, and that makes it very easy for my Storm to jump in and follow up on it. So Abed jumps in, and we have a follow-up on these guys. Luckily, we also have Lich, we have a good Chain Frost on them, and this, as soon as this Wyvern dies, we have a lot easier time fighting. Now the only problem we have in the fight is this Lion, but we know where he is. He's on the Naga. He's not messing with Storm, and for us in this game, for us to actually be able to fight, it's always important to look at your cores and not so much yourself. Like what heroes can mess with your cores, and in this game it's Lion and Wyvern. So as soon as Wyvern is dead, my only focus in this fight is Lion. And when I saw he was on our Naga, that's where I'm running, you know. We kill the TA and then I'm already on the line, so he can't counter-initiate, he can't go on my Storm. This is an example of a little bit later in the game than the previous one. This is a situation where I'm the one who's the backline. I'm playing Rubik, and the other team's main focus is to go on me, which basically means you have to play very aware, and the later in the game it gets, the more positioning is important, and also the vision that the other team has. So in this situation, you can see it's at minute 60. This is a TI, so it's a lot of pressure. Obviously, I'm like in the dream position as Rubik. I have Black Hole stolen. I know that they want to kill me because that's the only play they have. So I'm playing very safe. And in this situation, what happens is Secret have a ward on me, which is basically worst case for us because as soon as they see me, it makes it easy for them to fight. So you can see what happens here. They're moving out of their base, even though they're kind of losing the game here. They send out Eidolons. This is something that is really important to do as well. If you have heroes with summons, you can use them basically to give vision. So Sire is sending out Eidolons, making sure that he can try to find me, and he forces me to go into the ward vision because he's sending these. I have to run away from these because if they see me, I have to be scared. I don't know they have this ward. As soon as they see me, Void goes on me. He uses Chrono, and you can say, okay, he's chronoing for support, but he realizes at this point, if he kills me, then we don't have a play to counter. I'm basically the counter to their Enigma, and I don't have buyback. So we just lose the fight. And this was all happened because of the void that Secret have. Obviously, when you go into late game, there's more emphasis on buybacks, and this changes the game in a way that usually you want to make sure you kill the most important core, but that can change if some support that has high, like a backliner like Rubik or Wyvern, if they don't have buyback, if you kill that hero, it's going to make it so you have 2 minutes of time where they don't participate in the fight. And then that's going to give you like either an objective that's Roche. Mostly late game is going to be about getting the Roche area, making sure you get the 3rd or the 4th Roche because you get Refresher, you get Aghanims. This is like huge for most heroes. So making sure that you prioritize the heroes without buyback. So if you know one guy on the other team doesn't have buyback, his priority in the team fight might go up to like 1st or 2nd, you know, over like some void. Even if you can kill a void, if he has buyback, it's not as good as killing this Wyvern who's in the back with no buyback. So making sure you know the timers of buybacks, and making sure that if you see somebody on vision, that you can actually jump on them. So if this backliner moves too far forward, you have a ward on them, you need to be fast if you're playing the initiator to make sure you can go on them. So when you reach late game, there's obviously going to be more items on the other team, and some of them might change the way that you have to play your hero. Most position 4 heroes are not really good against BKB, for example. If you're playing an initiator, you might want to jump in just so that they use their BKB, then you want to reset, and then you can fight after the BKB. There's also some scenarios like the one I showed with Rubik, where you're playing against Enigma. If he has a Lincoln Sphere, then you have to make sure that you use your spell still twice on him. You need to buy Aghanims, otherwise you can't do it because he has BKB Lincolns. You can't break the Lincolns unless you have 2 ults. So there's some timings where you have to tell your team, in order for me to stop this Enigma from black holing, I need to have Aghanims, which is like, it's a late game timing for you, and it's important for your entire team that you're able to basically disrupt this Enigma from doing what he wants to do. So if you pick a Rubik against Enigma, it's because you want to prevent him from black holing in general. So he's obviously going to itemize towards, either he's not going to itemize to use black hole, he might buy like Teamfight items like Pipe or Guardian Greaves, or he's going to buy BKB Lincolns, he's going to make it so that you have to use your spell still twice. So these are timings that you need to understand, that if you don't have your Aghanims and he gets his Lincolns, then you need to wait. You need to tell your team, I can't stop this guy right now. If we take a fight, he's going to get his ulti off and we might lose the fight. So different items in the late game might change the way that you play your hero. It might mean that you have to wait for your own items to counteract it, and you need to make sure you communicate to your team that you need those items to have an impact.